right, everybody. Welcome back to the 2013 Pokemon Video Game World Championships here in beautiful Vancouver, Canada. We just saw a fantastic best-of-3 set between Seijin Park and Ryosuke Kosuge, and we are going to see Ryosuke, the winner of that match, once more in this next matchup here. But first, let's take a quick look at how the brackets stand right now. As we just saw, Ryosuke Kosuge did defeat Seijin Park, advancing to the Final Four here, with Aaron Zheng from the United States of America defeating Luigi Lo Giudici and moving on to the Final Four as well. On the other side of the bracket, we have Arash Omari defeating Matthias Helmut, the first German player in the top cut, to advance to the top 4. And at the bottom of the bracket there, Benjamin Gould did defeat Inash Shachar from the United States to move on. A fully international top 4 here.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We've seen in the past, the United States and Japan in particular have done really well. So it's cool. There's a lot more variety this year. It shows how much the game is growing. There's a lot of really good players from a lot of different places now.
Yeah, and both of those matches, I should say, both are going to be spectacular with a lot of fireworks here. We are going to be watching Aaron Zheng versus Ryosuke Kosuge up on the main stage once more, but I will be very interested in how the other match goes as well.
Yeah, I will too. We didn't get a chance to watch them too much during the Swiss stages, so I don't know exactly what they're running, but it must be some pretty creative stuff to have gotten this far in the tournament. So whichever of them makes it to the finals, I'm sure they'll put on a really great show. This one we've got Aaron Zheng too, who I think is a really interesting player because the past 2 years, when he was in seniors, he was the national champion of the United States, and he had really big expectations in Worlds, and he had trouble fulfilling them. So it's kind of funny that this year, the 1 year of it, he didn't have all that pressure on him. He's made it farther than he's ever gotten, making into the top cut and now into the top 4. Whereas before, when we were like, oh, sure, Aaron's got a great chance of being the world champion, and he wasn't quite able to make it quite as far as maybe he could have. So it's really interesting to see him starting to fulfill that potential that I think everyone always saw in him. And he's going to have a really challenging opponent here in Ryosuke, who put on a great show in the quarterfinals. Yeah,
definitely looking forward to this match quite a bit. As you mentioned, Aaron has had so much pressure put on him to perform in seniors. But this, his first year in Masters, he had a bit of a rocky regular season, but he's definitely brought it now that he's here in the playoffs and the big stage at Worlds. Top 4 Worlds, pretty good for your first year at a Master.
Yeah, he's the farthest the graduating senior's ever gone. Seijin Park, who we just saw, made it into the top cut of Masters in his first year as well, and ended up losing in the round of 8 to Wolf Glick. So Aaron's treading new ground here, making it to the top 4 in spite of how young he is. And I think it's a testament to the talent of these players. It's tough to go up against other players who might have a lot more experience than you do. It matters when you've had more years playing against older competition who might be a little bit more experienced. You might learn more about the metagame, or they might have slightly more difficult past tournament experiences that have molded them into better players. So it's hard to catch up. But just like Seijin, Aaron's been able to do it now. And it'll be really interesting to see everything he's learned here getting combined into his top cut performance.
I think that's one of the more interesting storylines we've seen develop around, it didn't always used to be juniors, seniors, and masters, but separating out the seniors group allowed these raw, talented players to not have to necessarily go out into the shark's den of a masters tournament with people like Ray Rizzo or Wolf Glick in America and trainers like Ryosuke in Japan. But they've had a chance now to play and practice at the highest level, and you can see how as soon as they graduate from seniors, they're ready to play on the national level, on the world level, in these important tournaments.
Yeah, a lot of the younger players have been really good too. Some of Aaron's classmates when he was in seniors did really well as well. Inash Shachar is a year older than him, but he made it to the top cut of Masters this year and lost in the quarterfinals. And then he played Toller Webb, who's the defending senior champion in the last round of Swiss, with the winner of that match moving on into that top cut spot that Aaron now occupies. So a lot of the younger guys are doing really well, and I think it's really great for the game. A little biased as one of the older guys, but
putting a lot of pressure on those old fogies. Yeah,
and deservedly so. They're pushing us out, and they deserve the spots they're getting. I'm really proud of them, and they've been really great players. So it should be cool to see what Aaron can do here. I know he's been dreaming of this moment for a long time, so it should be a good match here. He's been planning this one for
quite some time now, yeah. I'm really interested in seeing how this match plays out. Aaron has been one of those trainers that's most well known for reaching outside of the West for inspiration. For example, to Seijin Park and to some of the Japanese trainers. It'll be really interesting to me to see how Aaron's style, which has been so heavily influenced by the Korean and Japanese trainers, to go up against the Japanese national champion in Ryosuke Kosuge.
Yeah, it's a bit of a test here, right? It's like, he's going to have to face the master now. He's been borrowing from them all this time and learning, and now is the test,
Yeah. Can the knockoff pass inspection?
Exactly, right? I mean, I think at the very least it'll be close. The inspector's going to have to give it a second look over.
Yeah. I'm definitely interested to see how, Aaron takes that style and adapts on it. Because that's always something that's interesting to me. You never really have just straight up, very rarely do teams become carbon copies of each other. But it's always interesting to see how players put their own unique style onto it.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point about kind of how Pokemon works. But one of the great things about this game is it's played by people who speak lots of different languages. And one way that we communicate is kind of through our Pokemon teams. It's often available, or information that's pretty easy for players to get. So you can see someone's team and then kind of build on that and put maybe a spin that's more the local flavor of your region. It's something that Aaron's tended to do. Even when he was using teams that were heavily influenced by Seijin Park or another player, he made it a little bit more American, so it would kind of fit our metagame and our tastes a little bit more. So it'll be interesting to see if that local flavor helps him out here, or if it just isn't quite as good as the original.
And there's a shot of Aaron Zheng on your screens right there, decked out in the stars and stripes, representing the United States of America, looking calm and composed as we get ready to head into our next match. It's the face of a champion.
In spite of how young he is, he's a veteran. Even though he doesn't have the great world's resume that some other players might, he is a two-time national champion. He's been in these moments and he's succeeded. He's ready for this.
Yeah, the top 4 of a finals, even though he hasn't made it quite to Worlds, no stranger to him. And as we just saw, Ryosuke Kosuge now on your screen, definitely no stranger to high-stakes, intense, close matches. Really important to maintain your composure throughout a best-of-3, and he has shown that he can do it.
Yeah, I mean, we said that Aaron was clutch based on his nationals performance, but I mean, look at this guy. He too is a national champion, a reigning one, unlike Aaron, and he also won a really, really challenging match against Seijin Park here. It's always tough to play against the favorite of a tournament, to get behind. It's just all the pressure in the world's on you. It's easy to get down on yourself and just think there's no way I can dig myself out of this hole. And even in the second game of that series, he was behind and was able to come out of this. So it's going to be a really tough challenge for Aaron here.
Yeah, definitely a tough challenge for Aaron and whoever he might fight in the next round should he get through. Of course, you can see the intensity on both of their faces as Ryosuke gestures forcefully. The gesture of a champion.
That's some of the fun too, right? I mean, one thing I love about both of these guys is they know how to put on a show. They know that they've got their fans in the audience rooting for them. They're the last hopes for their country. So,
yeah, the last hopes for their country. That's correct. As we have 4 different countries in the finals, the cheers come up, and we're going to go ahead and head right into the game. Ryosuke on the top of your screen, you can see his team, that Tyranitar, that Heatran, that Landorus, that Cresselia, that Thundurus, and that Conkeldurr. Aaron's team that you aren't seeing is going to be Cresselia, Rotom, Wash, Conkeldurr, Landorus, Therian form, Tyranitar, and that's going to be the Heatran.
Yeah, so you may notice something that it's kind of like looking in a mirror here too. It's not just the play styles that are similar, but Aaron's team looks like it was influenced a little bit by his opponents here, so kind of an awkward situation, right? The only Pokemon species difference here is that Aaron's using Rotom Washing Machine, whereas Ryosuke was using that Thundurus Incarnate form. So it'll be interesting to see if either of these Pokemon play a major part in this battle, since that's the most meaningful difference between their teams. They've made some different choices about a couple moves and a couple items, but fundamentally the other 5 pieces are the same. It's just a matter of which of the 2 players can use them better. But Rotom and Thundurus are the wild cards here because they bring something that the other player can't.
Yeah, definitely interested in seeing how that matchup plays out. We already saw the Swagger come out from Thundurus a few times. Of course, that prankster ability, giving the priority to Swagger, is a huge deal for Thundurus. It's part of why it's so strong. Rotom has a whole bunch of other options it can use, but I'm not quite sure. It probably won't be as flashy as a nice Swagger battle, but it also provides some nice utility to the team too. So it will be very interested to see how these match up as we are headed into our first game of the top 4 of the 2013 Pokemon World Video Game Championships. Ryosuke Kosuge from Japan up against Aaron Zheng from the United States of America. You can see Ryosuke there at the top of your screen as Aaron sends out his Cresselia and his Rotom to lead the pack. Of course, we have a celebrity in our audience, the PokeStar Studios star coming out for Rotom, as Ryosuke sends out his Cresselia and his Landorus. Different trainer, different leads.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface here, Aaron's got the better lead matchup because Rotom would just love to battle Landorus here, but with that U-turn, it's not too likely it's going to get the chance. I am excited to see Rotom here, though. Aaron obviously identified, just like we did, that that's the one major difference between their teams, and Rotom's a really cool pick. We mentioned a bit in the opening that what Aaron does, and a lot of players do, is just kind of like putting a more local flair on other regions' teams.
And the first attack of the game is a miss as Stonehenge misses, but Rotom's Will-O-Wisp also missing. The Cresselia's Ice Beam, however, not going to miss this time. Does get that Ice Beam off onto the Landorus. Oh, the super effective hit. survives, hangs on with the thread because of that focus sash. And the Cresselia coming out with the Psychic onto the Rotom, going to deal some good damage there, but not quite activating a focus sash.
I mean, they get the attacks in right. Just keep trying, guys. You'll hit sooner or later. I was going to say, though, the Rotom's really interesting to see here just because, as far as regional flair, Rotom W was something that was really big in Aaron's home nationals in the United States. A lot of people used it with that Will-O-Wisp move we just saw to start at countering physical attackers. They become a really big part of the metagame with special attackers like Dragon types getting less popular in our region. So it was effective to start countering the physical Pokemon instead, and Rotom is one of the best at doing that. There's a lot of physical Pokemon on both of their teams, I guess, with Tyranitar, Conkeldurr, and Landorus T. So Rotom's probably going to have a chance to shine here, especially because it's also good against the Fire-type Heatran. Yeah,
definitely a good choice there for the Rotom. And that Will-O-Wisp, signifying that it's a little bit more utility-oriented than some of the other ones we've seen. Landorus is going to go for that Protect, doesn't want to get burnt by Rotom. And it does. Oh, and the Avoid comes out, so actually not going to be a factor there. Psychic comes out onto the Rotom again. It's going to deal more damage, slowly whittling away that Rotom, as now the Citrus Berry activates, going to recover off a little bit of that damage back. So Rotom a little bit bulkier, going to be okay there. The Ice Beam comes out from Cresselia, but it's into the Protect.
Yeah, one of the pitfalls of using Will-O-Wisp there is that it's only 75% accurate, and, well, it's not terrible accuracy. Like 3 and 4 is pretty good. We're a little bit spoiled in the video game. Most of our moves are 100% accurate or really close. So Will-O-Wisp, I think, is pretty much the least accurate viable move in the game. And poor Rotom there just experiencing the downside of that.
Just not going to have a fun time of that. Is going to switch out for the Tyranitar. Wants to save that Rotom for later. Not going to get the free KO there. Tyranitar kicks up the Sandstream. Not going to be bothering that Landorus too much, but Cresselia's, both of them, will be taking a little bit from that. Stone Edge does hit this time, comes out, is going to deal the damage to the Tyranitar, not the Rotom, the intended target. Not as much damage there. The Ice Beam is going to finally get the KO on that Landorus, and Aaron is going to move to a 4-3 lead in this game, as Ryosuke's Cresselia is going to use the Trick Room, going to twist the dimensions, and now we have the speed flipped.
Yeah, kind of an interesting play there. Trick Room, changing the speeds, but Aaron's withdrawn his quicker Rotom and replaced it with Tyranitar. So not a terrible position to be in. Tyranitar wouldn't be super excited to see Conkeldurr here, but Cresselia is still there to help out. So nothing that can happen here is too bad for him, and we do see Conkeldurr.
Speaking of not being particularly excited to see the Conkeldurr, out comes Conkeldurr, going to immediately threaten that Tyranitar. Of course, Cresselia is pretty good at dealing with Conkeldurr. It's psychic typing, being super effective against the fighting type Conkeldurr, but definitely some excellent offensive pressure for Ryosuke.
And one thing Tyranitar might be a little bit more excited about here is that, as in the first match against Sagen, Landorus went down really early here. Both teams have a lot of physical attackers, so removing the Pokemon that have ways of messing with those physical attackers is really important for these guys if they want to inflict any damage. Aaron has 2 in Landorus T and Rotom W, but it's really only Landorus T on Ryosuke's side. So Tyranitar, sooner or later, might get a chance to do some damage here, but not while Conkeldurr's out.
Yeah, not while Conkeldurr's out. Cresselia, also realizing it can't do a whole heck of a lot against the Cresselia and Tyranitar, is going to switch out for that Heatran, makes an appearance here. As Conkeldurr doesn't want to take any damage from Cresselia, is going to protect away that, make sure that it can't take any damage this turn, as well as Tyranitar. No one wants to take damage. Everyone's switching, everyone's protecting, everyone's hiding behind their screens. As Cresselia is going to reverse the Trick Room. One of the interesting mechanics of Trick Room, if you Trick Room while Trick Room is up, Trick Room goes away.
A good move by Aaron there. He's correctly decided that he probably doesn't want to fight Conkeldurr and Heatran in Trick Room. He turns that right around, and now he's in a little bit better position. He's still not super excited by poor Conkeldurr there, but at least he's in a better position now. Tyranitar likely quicker than at least Conkeldurr and maybe Heatran, and Cresselia definitely quicker than Conkeldurr now, so some pressure going the other way, especially because he wouldn't have been able to do any damage to protecting Conkeldurr and Heatran with Cresselia anyway, so a great use of that turn there.
Yeah, definitely a good use there. Gets the Cresselia, which, we aren't used to thinking of Cresselia as an offensive powerhouse, but is going to have some offensive pressure against this Conkeldurr. Clearly the most important Pokemon on Ryosuke's side for right now.
That's part of what makes Cresselia so good. Even though her offensive stats are not amazing, she does have good coverage.
And the Mach Punch comes out from that Conkeldurr onto Tyranitar into the Chopal Berry. That's going to weaken the power of the Mach Punch. We've already seen it's boosted by Life Orb earlier. Is going to deal a lot of damage. Gets down to the red, the 19 health. Super effective attack, but not quite enough to get rid of that Tyranitar, as the Psyshock comes out from Cresselia onto the Conkeldurr. Is going to deal good damage there since it is super effective. And you can see it going all the way down. Look at all that damage. It's super effective. It gets the critical hit onto Conkelder and gets another knockout for Aaron Zheng.
That's a huge knockout there, but Heatran's going to not just leave it at that.
Yeah, here comes the eruption from Heatran, is going to get the KO onto Tyranitar and deal some damage to that Cresselia. At full health with that Fire Gem is going to be dealing a whole lot of damage there. As you can see, the health bar moving down. Cresselia, very bulky, isn't going to be quite enough, but is going to take out Tyranitar.
Yeah. A lot of good damage back there. It was really important for Ryosuke to answer a bit, just because Aaron had already taken 2 knockouts, and with only 4 Pokemon, it's half of the battle done already. So at least he gets 1.5 there. So pretty close to tying the game, but Rotom's back here, and it's in pretty good position.
Yeah, Rotom definitely a superstar against this Heatran. Of course, the fire types, we talked about them a little bit earlier. Always a pleasure to see Heatran, but it doesn't like seeing Rotom at all. And Cresselia comes out, not adding a whole lot of offensive pressure again.
Yeah, I mean, Rotom's probably pretty excited here, though. It's got Cresselia, who can't do a whole lot to it, and maybe it can try and miss some more Will-O-Wisps on it. And then it's got Heatran here, who is a Fire-type Pokemon, doesn't want anything to do with that Water-type. Cresselia, we also saw, didn't have a Citrus Berry, so it might look for some other ways to recover HP here.
Yeah, definitely Citrus Berry being the most popular item choice on that Cresselia, but it is being used by that Rotom. Very tense moment here for Ryosuke, but we did see him go down early in the match against Seijun. Is going to go for the Protect on that Heatran. Going to make sure that it doesn't take any damage this next turn. Light Screen comes out from the Rotom. That's going to drastically reduce the amount of special damage, which is primarily what both Heatran and Cresselia deal. As the Psychic comes out from Cresselia, is going to deal some damage to Rotom, but look at the work that Light Screen is doing. And Rest comes out from Cresselia, healing off all of that damage as it goes, takes a little quick cat nap, and heal off that damage, and then, of course, wake itself right back up.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see Rest on Cresselia too often anymore, but we did see a lot of Spore in the Swiss stages. And one of the things that that Chesto Berry Rest combination lets you do, in addition to healing yourself, is to block Spore. In this battle, mostly just being used to keep Cresselia in the battle and healthy. Light Screen also going to help with that a lot.
Yeah.
It's more common to have situations where, oh no, my last 2 Pokemon are physical Pokemon, and now I've been intimidated. But Aaron kind of did it the other way around here. He got it down to just 2 special Pokemon and then used Light Screen, and it won't be much choice for Ryosuke but to attack into it.
And Rotom is going to get that Hydro Pump off onto Heatran. That super effective Water-type attack is going to deal a lot of damage to Heatran, but not quite enough. It's going to make sure that the eruptions are much less powerful coming out, though. Ice Beam onto Ryosuke's Cresselia does get another critical hit, but not that much damage going there. Cresselia avoids the Heat Wave coming out from Heatran, and it is going to deal some damage to Rotom, but again, that Light Screen plus the Water typing going to make sure that Rotom stays healthy enough, as Ryosuke's Cresselia does use that Trick Room to switch the speeds once again.
And then we'll let Heatran be slower, which will let it get one more attack off, but the Light Screen is really, really cutting into the damage Heatran's doing here. And even just Cresselia now is a big threat. With Heatran at so low health and Cresselia having the ability to rest back up, it alone is a huge threat. But there's still Rotom there that has to be dealt with. You can't just focus on Cresselia, or the Water type's going to run all over Ryosuke here. He's in trouble. Yeah,
definitely not a position that Ryosuke wanted to be in. The Heat Wave just can't seem to hit that Cresselia. Avoids it once again, does get more damage onto the Rotom. Still not going to be able to get the KO there thanks to that Light Screen and the Water typing, but the Psychic will be able to finally get that damage done as Rotom goes down. And it's just Cresselia out on the field right now, going to get that Ice Beam again onto Ryosuke's Cresselia, going to deal some more damage, slowly whittling down Cresselia as a Citrus Berry comes out from Ryosuke's Cresselia here.
Interesting that Aaron doesn't seem to care about Heatran. Could have used those last 2 attacks to knock Heatran out instead, but instead his Cresselia is just slowly whittling the other Cresselia down.
Yeah, definitely deciding that Cresselia is the bigger threat to the remainder of Aaron's team. As we see Conkelder coming out, makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, exactly. There's always a reason, right? And he wasn't just randomly attacking Cresselia, so he was trying to weaken the enemy Cresselia so that he could help his buddy Conkelder out here and avoid him getting, thrown into the wall by Cresselia's psychic power.
Definitely the case here, and with the Heatran at such low HP, not a huge threat there, as Conkelder goes for the Protect, doesn't want to take any Psychics from the Cresselia on the opposite side. Conkelder does protect away that Heat Wave damage, and one finally lands on Aaron's Cresselia here. Still not going to deal a whole lot of damage, though, as the Ice Beam comes out back onto Ryosuke's Cresselia once again, and the Psychic from Ryosuke's back onto Conkelder, who protected it away.
it's kind of slowly ending this game for Aaron here. He's got a pretty commanding lead here, even though these are the last Pokemon since he's way ahead on health here. So not taking any big risks. He was probably expecting Heatran to protect there and just try to protect with it, but didn't get quite what he wanted there. But Cresselia on Ryosuke's side starting to get worn down enough that even Conkeldurr could probably finish this off pretty soon. And Aaron can still rest with his Cresselia whenever he needs to. So he's just kind of leisurely finishing this game out here. Not the most exciting ending, but still really interesting battle to get where we got here. And I'm sure both trainers are kind of using the time as this battle whittles down to start thinking about what they're going to do in Game 2.
Yeah, definitely a good point there. You always want to make the most use of your time as you have it. Heatran is going to protect itself as Conkeldurr does try to go for the Mach Punch, but it's right into that Protect, which means that Ryosuke's Cresselia might finally get the chance that it's been trying so long to get the Psychic off. Does eat another Ice Beam, does get the Psychic off this time onto Conkeldurr. Have to take a look, see how much damage it's going to do. Conkeldurr is very healthy, and it's not going to be enough at all. A lot of work being done by that light screen there.
One of the most effective turns in this game, I think. Sometimes the support moves get a little underappreciated because it's more subtle, the effect they've had, but that light screen must have blocked the damage of 7 or 8 special attacks. That's a lot of reduced damage.
Yeah, and there you see the light screen finally wearing off on Aaron's side. So Cresselia might be able to deal some damage there, but probably not going to be enough. It's been too late, too many light screen turns.
Yeah, likely. I think you have to appreciate Ryosuke's here. Even though he's way behind, he's kind of been turn to turn predicting the Protects a little bit better.
And we do get another Protect off from Ryosuke's Heatran, as the Ice Punch comes out from Conkeldurr onto the Cresselia, not taking the bait there. It's going to deal good damage there, and it's enough to KO the Cresselia. And it's Heatran versus Conkeldurr with that Mach Punch and the Cresselia. Looks like Aaron Zheng is going to take this first game.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a situation Heatran's going to claw itself out of, but you have to give credit to Aaron there. He was getting made look a little silly for the last few turns there because he couldn't quite get Conkeldurr onto that Heatran, but there he goes,
Yep.
He makes a nice little move there himself and reminds us why he's in the top 4. Makes the right move there and doesn't care about the double Protect.
Yeah, we hear the chants coming out already for Aaron as the Mach Punch from his Conkeldurr is going to KO that Heatran and seal Game 1 for Aaron Zheng of the United States of America. Great game.
Yeah, that was a good game. Get a little slow at the end there, but how we got there was really interesting, and I think it was also interesting how close it was to the first game of the previous series. Once again, Landorus went down a little bit early. That wasn't available to help stop a physical attacker toward the end. It's a tougher series for Landorus this time, having to play against both Cresselia and Rotom Washing Machine.
Yeah.
So Ryosuke might want to think about not bringing that the next game, but in the same token, it's the only way he has to reduce the damage from physical attackers, so he's kind of pulled into it. It's just a tough team matchup, I think. The Rotom Washing Machine, even though it's the only different Pokemon between the two of these, seems to be making a really big difference in this matchup.
Yeah, the Rotom Washing Machine's light screen, probably the turn of the game there. Definitely some good information for Ryosuke, though. He can use that to pull back in the next 2 games, as we saw that he did against Seijin earlier tonight. So I think definitely a good amount of information gained there by Ryosuke.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't rule him out. Like I mentioned in the previous series, he's going into these games knowing that his opponents probably know more about his team than he does, and he's just going to have to play around it. He learned a lot about the differences between their team there. He said both the Chople Berry and Tyranitar and the Rotom W, which I think are the 2 biggest differences between Aaron's version of his team and his team. So now he knows he's playing in an even playing field now, at least from an informational perspective. I still think Landorus is going to have a really tough time here, which is a big advantage for Aaron because with so many physical attackers on this team that kind of do the brunt of the damage, other than Heatran, who's going to have trouble against the enemy Heatran, it's really important to be able to do that. So Aaron still has at least he's a little team matchup advantage, but his information advantage is gone. So this will probably be a much closer game.
Speaking of those team matchups, on your screen is Ryosuke Kosuge's team. That's Tyranitar, Heatran, Landorus, Cresselia, Thundurus, and Conkeldurr. And Aaron Zheng's team is Cresselia, Rotom Washing Machine, Conkeldurr, Landorus, Therian Form, Tyranitar, and Heatran as well. I asked you this before for last game. How do you adjust? What are the changes that you make if you're Ryosuke and you see now that you have this information?
I think that's going to be a really difficult challenge for him. Like I said, I might not use Landorus this time. I just feel like it's so difficult to actually do damage. There's Ice Punch on Conkeldurr, which we saw last game, even though it didn't end up targeting Landorus. Cresselia, Rotom W. The chances of actually getting anything done are really tough.
Yeah.
But he's got to find an alternate way of dealing with those physical attackers this time because they're huge.
Yeah, definitely big, giant threats to his team as we go into Game 2. Again, Ryosuke Kosuge representing the nation of Japan on the top of your screen, and Aaron Zheng from the United States of America on the bottom. Ryosuke sends out his double genies, the classic that he used to take Game 2 from Seijin Park, the Thundurus and the Landorus up against that Rotom and Cresselia. If it ain't broke.
Yeah, I think this is about what we expected to see on turn 1 of the second game here. Aaron won game 1 fairly convincingly. No need for changes, but this is a more standard reaction, I guess, from Ryosuke. Last game, it was really interesting that he was so aggressive, or last series, I should say, it was really interesting he was so aggressive not to change his strategy after losing game 1. This is more typical. He lost the first game, and this time he's making some changes to help him out here.
Making some changes, going back to something that worked against Seijin Park earlier. The Thunderous being out on the field definitely going to be good pressure on that Rotom immediately. Will be able to deal some damage, or it can go for the Thunder Wave, get the paralysis on Rotom real early, going to cut its speed and give it a chance to be unable to attack in the upcoming moves. And you see the U-turn coming out from Landorus. Just wants to get some damage off, knows that it can't stick around with a Rotom Wash and a Cresselia out on the field. Get some good damage there with that U-turn. Goes back to Ryosuke, and he's going to pick a new Pokemon to send out.
A good adjustment by him here. Thunderous can't necessarily do a lot of damage to any of the members of Aaron's team, but Thunder Wave and Swagger allow him to reduce the amount of times Aaron's Pokemon are attacking. Hopefully both the trainers give their Pokemon a pep talk this game to help them aim a little bit better, because they were losing turns mostly to accuracy last game, and I see that hasn't changed.
Yeah, nothing has changed for Aaron Zheng, as his Rotom is still unable to hit that Will-O-Wisp, but a critical hit. Nothing has changed for him as well. That Cresselia getting some very clutch critical hits there. Does about half damage to that Conkeldurr there.
Yeah, that poor Cresselia must be frustrated by its teammates, because it's getting all these critical hits that his teammates can't even hit once. Like, come on, guys. But
Cresselia definitely trying to make up for those misses there.
Yeah, assuming that Will-O-Wisp was going toward Conkeldurr, I think I still take that, both the miss and the crit if I'm Ryosuke there. I really don't want Conkeldurr burned. It used to be popular to use Guts and Conkeldurr, so it wasn't a big deal to get burned, because it would just increase your attack at the expense of some damage. But nowadays, the ability Iron Fist, which comes from the Dream World, is a lot more popular. It increases the power of punching abilities, and that's pretty much what Conkeldurr does. I mean, he's a guy holding concrete blocks. He wants to punch you. So
he just punches.
Yeah.
And it looks like that paralyzed Rotom making a decision on what move it'll make. Of course, Conkeldurr is out on the field, but it's not going to want to stick around with that Cresselia out. And of course, it does go for the Protect there to make sure that it is not going to take any damage. As another Thunder Wave comes out from Thunderous. This is what Thunderous Incarnate does best. It spreads status as the paralysis comes out onto Cresselia. Of course, we have already seen the rest on Cresselia, so we can get rid of that paralysis at any time it so chooses. The Slice Shot comes out, but it is into that Conkeldurr's Protect once again. And the Will-O-Wisp out from Rotom also are going to be avoided. 4 for 4. 4 for 4 for those Will-O-Wisps.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he should try a different strategy. This one doesn't seem to be working out for him. Tough breaks on the Will-O-Wisp there, but I mean, still, there wasn't a whole lot he was going to get out of that turn either way. By using Will-O-Wisp on that slot, if there had been a switch and he would have protected a little bit better, but uh-oh.
And here's where things get dicey for Aaron. The Swagger coming out onto Cresselia. Now that it's both paralyzed and confused, its chances of attacking are drastically reduced now. Very unlikely for that Cresselia to be dealing a lot of damage, as now that Rotom is paralyzed, that Conkeldurr does get to go first, using that powerful Hammer Arm, but Rotom survives at 1 hit point. Just 1 hit point, separating Rotom from being sent back to the Pokeball fainted. And it is going to recover a little bit of HP from that Citrus Berry, but it is going to try for another Will-O-Wisp. Will it hit? No, of course not. Of course Rotom is not going to hit with that Will-O-Wisp, as the confused and paralyzed Cresselia is unable to make a move either. The fully paralyzed Cresselia going to just sit there.
Now, frustrating turn for Aaron there. I guess he got a little lucky just to be able to get the chance to attack there, and at least now I guess Conkeldurr will have to attack once more, at least one of the 2 targets, and take some more Life Orb recoil there. But not too surprising Cresselia couldn't act there. When you're both paralyzed and confused, you're actually more likely not to be able to move than you are to be able to move. And that's what Thunderous does best. You have to deal with it. And Aaron's just been choosing to ignore it. So he's going to have to play the percentages now and just deal with the paralysis and the confusion. That's what makes it really powerful. It's not necessarily that it does a whole bunch of damage itself, but it just prevents you from doing damage. So over a bigger sample of turns, it does more damage.
And it prevents more damage as well, which is very important, as Conkeldurr is going to bounce back to Ryosuke. Doesn't want to stick around for the chance, as Heatran comes out. It's going to let Thunderous get a Thunderbolt off onto Rotom. That's going to deal good damage and probably enough to get the KO. Yep, there you go. Rotom faints, as Heatran now on the field. And Cresselia is going to roll the dice, try and make another move. Confused and paralyzed, but it hits itself in its own confusion, deals some damage, and is unable to make an attack. And
not this time for Cresselia. I don't know what to say. Swagger is what it is, and it's one of the most hated strategies in VGC, but there's a reason people keep using it. It works, and it's one of those things that you just have to have a solution for, otherwise this is going to happen. And maybe Aaron didn't have the best draws earlier in the match, which helped lead him to this position, but either later in this game or in the third game, if he's not able to bring this one back, he's going to have to find a better way to deal with this.
Mm-hmm. And again, the Cresselia can still rest off at least one of those. It will, of course, have to move to do that, though.
At least he does get Tyranitar out here. One of the best ways to deal with Thunderous Eye is using Tyranitar. As a rock type, it does a bunch of damage to it with super effective rock type moves, in addition to getting some damage on the other target with Rock Slide, so at least it helps a little bit. And
Thundurus is plenty pleased with the paralysis and confusion it spread, and is just going to go for straight damage, Thunderbolting that Cresselia as the Fire Gym Eruption erupts from Heatran, and is going to deal not that much damage to Tyranitar thanks to the special defense boost, but it should be enough to get the KO on that Cresselia as we see the boulders falling down and the hit bar going down, and it, yes, does get the KO onto Cresselia, who, wasn't moving anyway, so why even keep it around? As Tyranitar does get the Rock Slide. Oh, but another avoid! Double avoid! Heatran and Thundurus both avoiding Tyranitar's Rock Slides that would have done great damage to that Thundurus and good damage to that Heatran.
It's a frustrating turn for Aaron there, right?
It's a frustrating game.
They just can't seem to get things going his way. Hopefully we'll be able to shake this one off before the next one, assuming nothing amazing happens here. But I do have to give Ryosuke credit for that turn. You mentioned rest. I think it was really important for him there not to just ignore Cresselia and let it eventually move probably and get the rest off and heal off all that status and the damage that it had taken. Mm-hmm. So really good move there, just to kind of take a decisive blow once it was around half HP and not give it the chance to hang around while it was low and give Aaron an obvious situation to rest.
Yeah, definitely important to get rid of that Cresselia before it could continue to be a threat to Ryosuke's Pokemon. We do see Aaron's Conkeldurr does come out on the field, which will be able to threaten both of them, actually, thanks to that Ice Punch we saw. Conkeldurr being really the major powerhouse in these games.
Yeah, it has been, and I think the threat of Mach Punch is big here, too, because Heatran doesn't want to take that before it uses Eruption because it reduces the damage as it's based on the percentage of HP you have. Mm-hmm. So at least it makes the situation a little more controllable for Aaron.
But Thundurus is going to go ahead and use that Thunder Wave to paralyze Conkeldurr, making it much less likely that Heatran will have to take one of those Mach Punches. Goes for the Heat Wave, predicting that a Mach Punch was coming anyway. Thanks to that HP-based damage, doesn't want to risk any lowered damage outputs. The Rock Slide does finally hit for Aaron this time, deals a lot of damage to that Thundurus, and just a little bit of damage to the Heatran. The Ice Punch onto the Heatran, probably predicting a switch out to maybe the Landorus there.
Yeah, I like the prediction by him. It didn't work out there, though, but it was smart. With Heatran out there, he probably expected that Ryosuke wasn't just going to let him do free damage to it with Conkeldurr, and expected to switch to Landorus, but not this time.
Yeah.
That's one of the advantages of being ahead is you don't always have to make those safe switches because you're still in a very controllable situation, especially because Landorus coming out safely later would have a good shot at closing this game on its own. So good move by his opponent not to do that, but when you're behind, you have to take those risks and try to get those free knockouts.
Yeah, and Thundurus doesn't want to give up a free knockout this turn. Switches out for for that Landorus, gets the Intimidate off, but a little bit of a risky play in case the Aaron decided to target that slot. The Intimidate is going to do a lot of work, lowering the Tyranitar and the Conkeldurr's attack there, but Conkeldurr does choose to go for the Mach Punch this time onto that Heatran. Is going to deal a lot of damage there. As you can see, the hit points falling down, but not anywhere near enough thanks to that Intimidate. Still in the orange bar there as the Heat Wave comes out once more. Does hit both Pokemon, and that should be enough to take out the Conkeldurr and deal a little bit of damage to that Tyranitar that will add up over time.
A big turn for Ryosuke again there, and it's kind of the reverse of last game now, both in the sense that he's getting stalled out here and in the sense that Intimidate gets two physical Pokemon that can't switch.
Yep, and the Crunch comes out onto that Landorus. That's going to deal some damage, but the Intimidate and, of course, Tyranitar up against a Landorus isn't where you want to be as the Tyranitar player. Protect comes out from the Heatran, doesn't want to get hit by his partner's Earthquake, which would, of course, deal enough damage to get the KO there. Earthquake does come out from the Landorus and is going to hit the Tyranitar. The ground is moving and shaking, and Tyranitar is taking damage, and all of the hit points are going away, and Tyranitar goes down, and Ryosuke Kosuge takes back game 2. Sort of a repeat of last time.
It is. We could have had more different first and second games in this series. In the first game, Aaron won pretty convincingly, even though it took him a little bit longer. He picked a very conservative way to close the game out. There wasn't too much doubt that he was going to win the game. This time, completely in the other direction. Aaron was almost never really in it. Part of it was because he was having trouble hitting attacks. Swagger and Thunderwave were going against him, but he wasn't really doing a whole lot to prevent those things from happening. He left Thunderous alone for the first several turns of the battle, and Thunderous did what Thunderous does, and it's frustrating to lose that way if you're Aaron, but you've got to look at the controllable parts of that. Okay, game 3, if I'm Aaron, I'm thinking I've got to find a better way to control Thunderous. I can't let him paralyze all of my important Pokemon. I can't let him just swagger my special attackers. I think it was a good adjustment by Ryosuke there. He knew he wasn't just going to win a game by slugging it out because of Rotom. Aaron's got a better team for doing that. And so instead he was playing a percentage game. I'm going to use moves like Thunder Wave and Swagger that give me a higher percentage chance of moving, and I'm going to use that to slowly close the game out rather than just to try to take it in big decisive damage trades.
Yeah, definitely a very smart adaptation from who we've already seen as a very smart trainer, Ryosuke Kosuge. And we see on the screen here Ryosuke's team: Tyranitar, Heatran, Landorus, Cresselia, Thundurus, and Conkeldurr, very familiar to all of us by now, as well as Aaron Zheng's team: Cresselia, Rotom, Washing Machine, Conkeldurr, Landorus, Therian Form, Tyranitar, and Heatran. So you mentioned Aaron has to make sure that Thundurus isn't going to be able to just swagger and paralyze his entire team. What options does Aaron have to make sure that the Thundurus doesn't get those free turns off?
Well, I think the main option is Tyranitar, which is dangerous to use in this situation because we've seen how big Conkeldurr's already been in this series, and it's only going to get worse if he has to lean on it really hard because it creates easy situations, I guess, for Conkeldurr to slug away at Tyranitar while it's trying to deal with Thundurus. But I think it's going to be mandatory here. He's got to get it involved sooner in the game. It's the only really good counter he has to it. He also has the option of using Trick Room and then trying to use Conkeldurr to deal with it. And while that will probably be able to knock it out in a single blow, he's opening himself up while setting up Trick Room and while trying to get that attack off to Thunder Wave and Swagger. So he's going to have to roll the dice to do it that way, whereas Tyranitar can do it at least a little bit quicker because it's going to be able to take a couple attacks. But somewhat surprisingly here, we see Aaron isn't deviating from his leads. Yeah,
is still going to go with that Rotom and the Cresselia leads, and Ryosuke, not surprisingly, is going to stick with his Thundurus and Landorus leads. Double Genies did a lot of work the first game. They were, especially that Thundurus, were very clutch, and I'm not surprised to see them both out on the field again.
I'm not surprised to see them either, but I am surprised to see the same duo from Aaron. He won the first game, and Ryosuke had to adjust, and now in Game 3, it was Aaron's turn, and he just, nope, don't need to adjust. This did work out for Ryosuke in the previous series, where he just decided that even though he lost, he didn't need to change anything. His strategy was good enough. So Aaron may have that same success here. He may think that it was just the luck that caused him to lose the last game, and if he gets better rolls this time, it won't matter. His strategy was fine, and just the execution didn't work out quite the way he planned.
Yeah, definitely a possibility there, and it's going to be interesting to see if Aaron is going to be able to make it happen. As we see once more, the Thunder Waves coming out. Rotom is now paralyzed thanks to that Thundurus's Prankster ability, and the U-turn again coming out from the Landorus, going to deal damage to Cresselia and going to go back to Ryosuke.
It's where I've seen this once before. We're seeing a very similar battle to the previous game in which Aaron lost. So it's interesting. I'm eager to see where he's going to make the deviation that makes him win the game this time.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see that because he can't just play the same game unless he thinks that it was only because of his misses there. We do see Cresselia come out, and Rotom is paralyzed, unable to move, not going to be able to do anything, but Cresselia does use Trick Room. He has decided that that is the way to go.
I think it's a clever adjustment here. I mean, if he's going to allow his opponents to Thunder Wave all of his Pokemon anyway, at least he's getting some benefit now by using it as a form of speed control in his direction. Everything that gets paralyzed now is likely to be the fastest Pokemon on the field, so he's getting a benefit in addition to potentially not being able to act. It also lets Tyranitar move before Thundurus if it's doing anything other than a status move,
right,
which makes it slightly easier for it to deal with these Pokemon. Tyranitar, one of the best Pokemon against both Thundurus and Cresselia, which is part of why it's one of the best Pokemon in the game. So assuming he is planning to set up Tyranitar here, this is a pretty good situation.
Yeah, definitely a good situation there. And of course, that Rotom with both the Will-O-Wisp and the Light Screen going to be able to make sure that that Tyranitar is well protected against any attacks that might come out. So we see the Cresselia fresh out on the field, doesn't want to stick around, is going to switch back out in favor of the Heatran. We've already seen with the Eruption earlier. And Thunder Wave, Ryosuke is fine with giving Aaron some of this speed advantage during Trick Room because the paralysis chance is worth it. And yes, it is. That's Cresselia and Rotom are both unable to move. And you can see the look on Aaron's face right there. Not great.
I'm sure he's frustrated, but I'd be frustrated about the Cresselia too. The Rotom paralysis may have helped him. I imagine with that Heatran switch, Ryosuke was trying to catch him using Will-O-Wisps to activate Heatran's Flash Fire, which blocks the damage from Fire-type attacks and increases the Fire-type damage of Heatran. Aaron's been using Will-O-Wisps immediately on Cresselia and physical attackers all series, and I'm sure he's picked up on this. So he's trying to make that adjustment and get the free damage boost, but not this time.
Interestingly enough, with the Heatran coming out, we now know that Conkeldurr is not out on the field for Ryosuke. That Cresselia taking its place, and of course the Landorus Therian, which, if Aaron did bring that Tyranitar, it's going to make life much easier for him.
Yeah, it's Tyranitar's game to win this time, but Thundurus is going to prefer to try to take control its way instead.
Yep, the Swagger comes out onto that Rotom, is going to increase its attack and give it that Confusion again and the Paralysis status already. Going to see if Rotom and Cresselia are a little bit luckier this time around. Cresselia does get its Ice Beam off. Good for Cresselia. Better than we can say for Rotom this couple games. And the Confusion coming out for Rotom. And the Paralysis, will it be able to get its off? Yes! Hydro Pump does go through the Confusion and the Paralysis, and it hits onto that Heatran. All of the odds stacked against Rotom. It finally makes up for all 5 of those Will-O-Wisp miss. And it gets the Hydro Pump onto that Heatran, uses Eruption with the Fire Gem, as we've already mentioned. HP base, about 1 HP left on that Heatran. That's going to be a very wimpy Eruption.
So yeah, I mean, it survives with 1 HP, which is pretty clutch, but this was the saddest Eruption ever. Like, oh!
I think Aaron's Pokemon might have healed off of that. The critical hit onto the Cresselia.
That 2 damage was pretty critical there. It really could change the course of this. Okay. Big turn, though, there for Aaron. You're going to feel good for Rotom there. It's having really, really rough bounces all series. Mm-hmm. So it's nice that finally it defies the odds. It does something useful. And we still haven't seen Tyranitar. I feel reasonably safe assuming that Aaron must have picked Tyranitar into this matchup. And Heatran's one of those Pokemon that's handy to remove. Landorus is the big one, obviously, but
the biggest threat.
Heatran's still important to get rid of just because, at least before, it wasn't going to do great neutral damage if it just wanted to spam Rock Slide.
And Heatran with that last hit point is going to switch out. Cresselia, unfortunately, you got your chance to attack last turn. Rotom also confused and still paralyzed. And is it going to be able to? Yes! Rotom attacking 2 turns in a row, gets the light screen off against the double special attacking duo of Thundurus and Cresselia now. And the Thunderbolt coming out from that Thundurus, not going to be able to rely on the percentages now, is going to deal damage to Rotom, but only 40 HP because it was finally able to get off that light screen.
We saw how big this light screen was in Game 1, so I think this is a really, really important moment in Game 3 here. It was important that Aaron was able to get light screen up before Rotom fainted, which he wasn't able to do in Game 2. Especially because there's 2 Pokemon left, Cresselia and Thundurus, who do special attacks on Ryosuke's side. Both of them are mostly support Pokemon who don't do a whole lot of damage to begin with. So with light screen, they're doing almost nothing. The easy reaction to that is, oh, I've got a physical Pokemon in the back. I've got Landorus. But he really doesn't want to risk that Landorus, who he needs to help deal with Tyranitar, assuming it's around. Because both Cresselia and Rotom Washing Machine could easily knock it out. So it's a really precarious position for Ryosuke. He's going to decide between 2 bad situations, either risking his Landorus, who's his most important Pokemon for closing the game out, or not being able to really accomplish much in the next few turns.
And the Swagger does still come out from Ryosuke. Is going to go for the Swagger onto that Cresselia, raising the attack, adding the Confusion. Still going to play the odds there. As you mentioned with that light screen, not that much else that Thundurus is going to be able to do about that. As we do see, the Cresselia is going to try and make an attack. Is it going to be able to? Confusion? Yes, it gets through. The Ice Beam gets through, is going to target that Thundurus and deal some damage back. Aaron's Pokemon really putting forth the effort for this last game of this best of 3. The Confusion. Rotom gets the Will-O-Wisp, and it hits! Rotom finally gets the Will-O-Wisp to connect! The Will-O-Wisp onto Cresselia is going to deal damage over time there. The Psychic coming out, hoping to catch maybe a Conkeldurr on the switch-in, or also it's about the best that it can do against Rotom. Does deal damage and gets a special defense drop onto Rotom. A really good turn there for Aaron, though.
Well, I'm just proud that everyone can finally see that Will-O-Wisp is actually a move that inflicts burn. It really isn't just a message, it doesn't just give you the message. One of the more bizarre things I've seen with it missing that many times in a row, but it hit when it needed to here.
And the Trick Room does fade. The Twisted Dimensions do return to normal, which means that the Paralysis, the speed reduction part of the Paralysis there is going to be back in Ryosuke's favor. But we will have to see if Cresselia might reset it, which would give it a huge advantage against these Pokemon, especially if we assume he has Conkeldurr in the back, which would be great against that Landorus coming up.
It also has the option of using Rest to try to get rid of that Swagger and that Paralysis, which has been plaguing him all series, although this game things have been going a little bit better for him. Only 3 Pokemon left on Ryosuke's side, and unlike Aaron, his Cresselia doesn't have the ability to rest, so that burn is going to be a constant nuisance for the remainder of the game.
And you have to wonder, with the light screen up with both the Thunderous and the Cresselia, if there might be some opportunities for free switch-ins here for Aaron. Looks like not, as Thunderous is going to go for the taunt onto Cresselia, just going to make sure that Trick Room does not get reset. Really important move there for Ryosuke. The Psychic does come out, is trying to get rid of that Rotom. Still going to deal good damage there, about 40 HP there, but it will be able to heal off with the Citrus Berry, about the exact same amount of damage dealt. As we see that Rotom is going to try once more to get another attack off. Confused, paralyzed, gets the Hydro Pump off, and it connects! The Hydro Pump connecting with the Thunderous Incarnate. Rotom really pulling through when it needs to. Cresselia is unable to use the Trick Room, though, thanks to that taunt.
Fortunately, the taunt also stops it from hitting itself in confusion. So, I mean, at least there's a bright side, right? But
right.
A good taunt by Ryosuke there. He probably suspects Conkeldurr just like you do and wants to prevent that Trick Room from being put up. Even if it's something like Tyranitar, a slower Pokemon than Landorus, so it's important for him to control speed there. So a good play there. He does have, he's been using mostly just Swagger there, but there's a good decision there. He is reading what Aaron's doing. It just hasn't been a real exciting game from his end so far, just because it has been his best play just to use Swagger. And
right.
That's what happens when you're using a bunch of special supportive Pokemon like Aaron is.
Yeah, with bringing three special attackers to this game, as soon as Rotom gets that light screen up, it's a replay of the first game. There's not much that they can do to break through, especially as you mentioned, both Thunderous and Cresselia are more primarily support Pokemon.
Light Screen's been clutch in this series. It's one of the most underutilized moves in VGC, I think. Both it and Reflect are actually really good, but you've got to use a little more defensive team and kind of know how to avoid taking really large hits. And he does a great job with that with his team. We've seen Rotom take a bunch of hits, Cresselia take a bunch of hits. Like, they're just slowly getting worn down, and Light Screen every time reducing that damage.
Aaron does, now that his Cresselia is both taunted and it is confused, is going to switch out, going to reset the confusion and the taunt there. Landorus comes out for Aaron, going to be able to intimidate both these special attacking Pokemon and be some great offensive pressure against both of these Pokemon, though, as well. We see that the Thunderbolt does come out from the Thunderous onto that Rotom. Rotom's been a trooper this entire time, is going to be very low. The Psychic finally is going to be able to knock out that Rotom that has been such a thorn in Ryosuke's side this entire game. But now that Rotom is out, another free switch in for Aaron, and neither of these Pokemon that are going to switch in, well, unless he switches Cresselia in, are confused or paralyzed.
That's one thing that'll help Cresselia too. The switching out does clear that Swagger, so that's another way to increase the odds of him actually being able to move. He's been in advantageous positions for a lot of this game, but he hasn't necessarily been able to capitalize on that because Swagger's made it a little more disadvantageous. So at least he's making Ryosuke spend a turn to reapply that Swagger if he wants to keep the odds being reduced, and that's going to help Landorus out here, try to get some damage down.
Landorus is an interesting choice for this match also. You mentioned how Aaron might be able to adapt to the paralysis. Of course, Landorus is ground typing, makes it immune to paralysis.
It does, though it also makes it struggling with Cresselia, which is another good read by Ryosuke. Hadn't been bringing Cresselia for most of his series, and he does this time, which gives him a much better answer to that Landorus.
Of course, as we've already seen that Landorus with the Focus Sash, we'll be able to take at least one shot from Cresselia, which could be very important as we get to these final moves. So,
yeah.
Thunderous Cresselia on the top, Landorus and Cresselia on the bottom.
Yeah, I guess we've got the double Genie Cresselia, right? It's
right.
a very metagame moment here.
Yeah, it's very fitting that we would see all three of these Pokemon on the screen in the world's top 4 here. I feel like I've been seeing them all season. And Swagger comes out from Thunderous, is going to Swagger that Landorus. Really going to toss the dice, really playing with fire here. That attack increase on Landorus, but the confusion, again, we mentioned if it manages to hit itself in confusion, plus the Ice Beam from Cresselia, this could be a huge moment for Ryosuke. Landorus is confused. Is it going to be able to get the attack off? No! It hits itself in its confusion, and it deals 61 damage to itself and also breaks its Focus Sash as Cresselia's Ice Beam is going to be able to get the knockout onto Landorus. Really unfortunate break for Aaron there.
Yeah, daring move to Swagger a physical attacker there. The odds are in the favor of that not working out, but it does work out for him this time.
And the paralysis from Cresselia too. Just nothing going Aaron's way this turn.
Yeah, Ryosuke seems to be living right here. He's taking a lot of chances, but they all seem to be going his way once again.
Yeah, definitely rolling the dice, but you have to think about it. That was probably his best move.
Yeah, I mean, he knew he needed to break that Focus Sash, just like you mentioned, and Swagger was a strange but effective way to do that.
And Conkeldurr does make an appearance here, although we've already seen that light screen just wearing off, meaning that Conkeldurr is going to be much more vulnerable to Cresselia. This could be a bad position for Aaron.
Yeah, he's got to find a way to get that Trick Room up, but I imagine Thunderous isn't going to be any more open to that idea than it was the last time he tried.
Yeah, it might come down to just the damage rolls that Aaron can pull off here. As we saw Conkeldurr doing a lot of damage to Cresselia earlier in the game. Will it be able to get that KO on Cresselia again?
I mean, it's going to have to find a. It's going to have to last a few turns to manage to do that. Burn will help it, but it's still got that Citrus Berry to consume.
And the taunt does come out from Thunderous, going to make sure that Aaron's Cresselia is going to be unable to use that Trick Room. Much more reliable way of preventing that than the Swagger Thunder Wave combo there. Psychic does come out on Conkeldurr, and it is going to deal good damage there, but only enough to get it down to 67 HP, not enough for the KO. The Ice Punch comes out. Is Conkeldurr going to be able to deal enough damage? No. No, Cresselia does go down to the red, but is going to be able to recover off that damage with the Citrus Berry. The Burn's going to be able to deal some damage there, but maybe not enough. Ice Beam does come out, is going to get the hit onto Thunderous, and will get the KO on Thunderous as Ryosuke loses the next Mon.
We do end up with a 2-2 game here. I was a little surprised to see Conkeldurr choose to attack that turn. I thought it might use Detect and choose to get another turn of burn damage there, but we've got a really close one here that could go either way. Conkeldurr just hanging on there, and Cresselia in the same sort of situation. Both low on health, and both kind of they've got limited time in front of them. Conkeldurr has to worry about his Life Orb doing damage to him, and Cresselia's got that burn.
Yeah, definitely a very self-inflicted wounds kind of thing here. And of course, since Ryosuke also has that Heatran, I believe, in the back.
Yeah, it's still at a 10%, I think?
Yeah, about 1%, probably.
Oh, right, yeah. The saddest eruption. How could I forget?
The littlest eruption. So Conkeldurr and Cresselia up against this Landorus and Cresselia. Again, a very tight position for Aaron, now being unable to use that Trick Room also. And we have seen that Landorus is still at full health.
Yeah, Landorus is going to be tough to deal with here. Like Aaron's Landorus, it does have that Focus Sash, which means that Cresselia isn't just going to be able to swat it. And U-Turn is going to do a whole bunch of damage to Cresselia if he chooses to go that route.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very close match here. Aaron, as you can see, is taking all of the time he has allotted to make sure that he doesn't make the wrong decision here. In these last couple of turns, every second counts.
It's a really precarious move here. There's a great chance on the other side that Conkeldurr won't be targeted, so if that's the case, he needs to attack. But if Conkeldurr is targeted, he'd lose the game by attacking. Yeah,
and Conkeldurr does go for the Protect, and the U-Turn does come out from Landorus. Is going to hit that Cresselia and deal good damage there. Down all the way to the nice orange 45, as Landorus is going to switch back to that weakest Heatran. As we see Heatran about to come back out with its singular hit point.
They all count for the same at this point, though.
Yeah. As you mentioned, though, there is a good chance that Conkeldurr was not going to be attacked, but it is. So good Protect there. And the Paralysis just going to be gravy there for Ryosuke, as Cresselia is unable to even get the KO onto that Heatran.
Another precarious turn for Aaron because of that. There's a good chance he was using Rest there, which would have given him a much better shot here. But now, I mean, he's threatening Heatran with Mach Punch, but he probably doesn't want to take the Psychic move he would take in return for that. And Heatran probably doesn't want to let him do that anyway, and has the option of protecting or switching out to full health Landorus here. So again, another turn where Aaron has to figure out exactly what's going to happen just to get a decent result here, not even necessarily a good one.
Yeah, and as we saw from Aaron trying to do it, Cresselia is still afflicted by that taunt and unable to use Rest, which would be very, very good for him right now. That taunt going to be possibly the best thing that Ryosuke could have done. Conkeldurr is going to protect itself again, and is going to protect itself from that Psychic, as the Heat Wave coming out from Ryosuke's Heatran at 1 HP is going to hit the Cresselia. And Heat Wave not afflicted by HP, and it is going to be enough to get the KO, and Cresselia is going to go down, leaving Conkeldurr, a very, very sad Conkeldurr, up against this Heatran and this Cresselia.
Not too much Aaron can do from here. He needed the Heat Wave miss there to at least put him into the game, but not this time. Time was running low, too. Would have been an issue there, too. Even if he'd managed to get a knockout there, full health Landorus was a bit of a problem.
Aaron is going to go for another Protect. Conkeldurr is going to be safe for one more turn. Going to get the burn damage off onto Cresselia, get that nice knockout. Pad his stats a little bit. Heatran's Earth Power, though, also going to be protected by Conkeldurr. As we see, Cresselia finally goes down thanks to that burn. But unfortunately, thanks to the Landorus in the back, plus the Heatran, looks like Ryosuke is going to be able to take the third game and move back into the finals.
Yeah, and congratulations to him, assuming that's what happens. And a great job by him, too. Of both series we've watched him play, he lost the first game, was able to make better adjustments and move on. And I think that's a mark of a really great player. His strategy was strong. He game in every round. His opponents probably knew his team and hurt him a little bit first, but he figured their team out just as fast. And then once they were on an even playing field, he's the one who managed to figure it out.
And Heatran not going to let Conkeldurr get the free KO with Mach Punch there. Goes to the Protect. Mach Punch into the Protect there as the Earthquake comes out from Landorus. Going to be enough to KO that Conkeldurr. And Ryosuke Kosuge takes the Game 3 and moves on to the finals of the 2013 Pokémon World Video Game Championships after a grueling and intense 3-game series. 2 intense 3-game series.
Yeah, he was against 2 great players today, and he pushed the most of a limit. Really impressive that he was able to come from behind twice. 2 players, lots of experience against him, both of whom have played lots of games at Worlds before, whereas he hasn't. But he's able to overcome some great challenges there. There's some great opponents. Even, I think, a really unfavorable team matchup against Aaron. And they come out on top. And that's what you need to do well in this tournament.
Yeah, it's a really good showing from Ryosuke. I mean, he got some lucky breaks in that game, too. He played the probability. He played the odds. And we've seen from all 6 of these games from him that he is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the finals coming up. I can't think of a more deserving trainer after seeing these 6 games. He played phenomenally in all of them. Aaron Zheng's tournament unfortunately ends here, but he did make top 4 in his first year as a master. Top 4 worlds, still a really good season.
Yeah, I mean, he should certainly be proud of himself. He played a great series and a great tournament, and I think that he'll learn from this and do even better next year. And his opponent, again, played a great tournament. There's no shame in losing to that.
Yep.
Even though it wasn't maybe the most exciting way to win, choosing to use probability rather than just a bunch of big decisive attacks, it's fundamentally a game of probability, and he played the odds correctly.
Yeah, great games, and we'll have more games tomorrow and TCG later on today. Right now, though, we're going to take a quick break and be right back with another interview with Ryosuke. to the 2013 Pokémon World Video Game Championships. I am joined here once again by Ryosuke Kosuge, who just took the top 4 match in 3 amazing games against Aaron Zheng. Well, first, Ryosuke, great to see you again. Congratulations.
おめでとうございます。
So, I want to talk a little bit about, how it feels to be in the finals now.
もう、これでもう決勝進出ということで、今どんな気分ですか？
ここまでこれここまで上がれるとは思っていなくて。
Yeah, I really didn't think that I will come this far, so it's really great.
Yeah, it's definitely been an impressive run. I would wager that you've made quite a few new fans. So, how do you feel going up against, Aaron Zheng, who was a 2-time national champion? You're Japan's national champion, and basically your entire tournament has been national champions. Is it sort of? It feels like it must be a great honor to be able to say that I have defeated these national champions as Japan's representative here in Worlds.
対戦相手もそれぞれアメリカ、韓国と、ナショナルチャンピオンだったんですけど、対戦してみてどうでしたか？
非常に強くて、パーティーの構築上は取れなかったので、しょうがないからボールドロスで相手の行動を止める戦法を取ってしまいました。
Yeah, they were really a tough opponent, so he had to think through a lot of the configuration of his champion, the Pokemons.
I want to talk especially about your Thunderous, the paralysis and the confusion. Was that something that you knew you wanted to do going into that game?
ランドルスとクレセリアを使った時のコンフュージョン、混同する。はいはい、それを使うのは事前にその考えがあったんですか？
出てきたポケモンたちの対面を考えてその場その場で臨機応変に動いて使いました。
Yeah, I was thinking by fly that to come up with that skill when the opponent comes out. So
yeah, that's great. That's the hallmark of a champion. So you will be back on the finals. Japan hasn't had a player in the finals since 2010, and you are now the Japanese representative at the 2010 World Pokemon Championships. How does it feel to be representing your country back on the highest stage on the most important game?
日本の選手が決勝に進出するのは2010年以来なんですけど、日本の代表ということでどういった感じですか？
最近は日本勢以外の国の方が本当に強くて日本が決勝に上がれなかったので、僕が上がれることで日本の士気が上がればいいと思います。
So yeah, it's been the other countries were so strong for recently. So by me going up to the final, I hope all the Japans will go out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everyone who's been around knows that the Japanese trainers have always been a threat, and I'm so thrilled to see you back in full force at Worlds this year. You mentioned that this has been a dream for you. Are you ready to wake up?
さっきのインタビューで世界大会に出ることは夢だというふうにおっしゃってたんですけど、もう夢を叶えられそうですか？
はい、非常に嬉しいです。
I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm so glad.
Great. So, I just want to let you have a chance to talk to your fans. We have a great support group out here. How great has it been to be around all of your countrymen who have been supporting you? I heard the cheers throughout the entire game. There they are watching us right now. How much did their support mean to you to get up here?
今までのずっと試合で友達ですとか知り合いの方にいろいろサポートを受けてけたと思うんですけど、感謝の一言というか、はい、お願いします。感謝の一言というか、はい、
僕と対戦してくれたり、パーティーの相談に乗ってくれた人たちもすべてに今感謝しています。
Yeah, he would like to thank all of the people that he played against and then gave the support to them.
Great. And so the finals are tomorrow. How are you going to spend your night preparing?
明日決勝ということで、今晩はどういうふうに過ごすお考えですか？今晩はどういうふうに どう過ごすお考えですか？
はい、過ごす。
はい、
今日はもう早く部屋に戻って寝たいと、休養を取ったりしたいと思います。
Yeah, he's going to take a good rest back in his room.
I think we could all do with a good rest. Thank you so much, and congratulations again. We'll see you tomorrow bright and early for the championship match.
どうもありがとうございました。明日の朝また
Thanks so
お会
much.
いします。ありがとうございます。
Congratulations and have a
ありがとうございます。
good nap, good night's sleep. Looking forward to seeing you play tomorrow in the finals. We are going to be going to some trading card game matches next. Stay tuned because the Pokémon World Championships 2013 are not over. Still more action to come.